Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a really close look at something fascinating. It's a movement that's genuinely changing how people think about, well, work, money, even time itself.
Right.
We're talking about FIRE. That stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission for you today is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Dig into our sources, articles, research, stories from people actually doing this, and pull out the key ideas. What is FIRE, really? What are its core principles, and, how are people making it work?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, our listener, what does financial independence actually mean to you? And maybe more importantly, could it be closer than you think?
It's interesting you frame it like that because the heart of FIRE, it's not always just about, say, retiring at 40, though that can happen.
Right.
It's more fundamental. It's getting to a point where you just don't have to work for money ever again if you choose not to. It's about that freedom, that choice.
Okay.
And the path there, well, it involves pretty radical saving habits and, crucially, very strategic investing.
Radical savings, that phrase really jumps out. I bet people listening are thinking, hold on, how radical? Is that even sustainable? What kind of savings rates are we actually talking about here?
That's a great question because, standard advice is maybe save 10, 15, 20% if you're doing well.
Yeah, the usual benchmark.
Exactly. But FIRE followers, they're aiming much, much higher. We're often talking 50, even up to 70% of their income.
50 to 70%. Wow.
Yeah, it's a huge leap. And look, it absolutely demands conscious choices, big ones. It's not just about skipping coffees. It's often about really digging into needs versus wants.
Okay, so fundamental lifestyle shifts.
Totally. Rethinking housing, transport, everything. But what many find, and what our sources often highlight, is that shedding things they thought they needed actually frees up not just money, but time and mental energy for what truly matters. Happiness isn't always tied to buying more stuff.
That makes sense.
So it involves optimizing costs, cooking more, finding free entertainment, and often boosting income too, maybe with side hustles, to really accelerate those savings.
Right. Okay. So you've done the hard part. You've managed to save this significant chunk of cash. What's next? You can't just let it sit there. Right. Which I guess brings us straight to the investing side of things.
Precisely. Saving is step one, but investing is what makes the money grow and work for you long term. This is where strategy is absolutely key.
So what's the typical approach?
It's generally about building a solid portfolio, often focusing on low-cost, broad market index funds. Think ETFs tracking the S&P 500 or a total stock market index.
Passive investing.
Exactly. The idea, supported by a lot of the FIRE literature, is to capture the market's overall growth rather than trying to beat it with active stock picking, which is hard and often comes with higher fees. It's about efficiency and long-term compounding.
And you mentioned avoiding over-diversification. That sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, it does a bit. But while diversification is good, spreading yourself too thin across, say, dozens of niche funds or asset classes can sometimes just dilute returns and add complexity without much added benefit, especially when the goal is straightforward, long-term growth from the broad market. Keep it simple, keep it low cost.
Okay, that clarifies it. Now, this leads to what feels like the most exciting part for many people, figuring out their FIRE number, that target amount. I can almost hear people crunching numbers. How do you actually calculate that?
Right. This is where it gets really concrete. The most common method is the rule of 25. It's quite simple, actually.
Okay.
You estimate your desired annual expenses in retirement, what you'd need to live comfortably each year, and you multiply that number by 25.
25 times annual expenses.
Exactly. So let's use an example. If you figure you need, say, $40,000 a year to live on, your FIRE number is $40,000 times 25, which equals $1 million. That $1 million is your target portfolio size.
$1 million. A clear goal. But then, how do you actually draw money from that million without it running out? Especially with things like inflation or, market dips.
Excellent question. And that leads directly to the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
The 4% rule. This is the withdrawal strategy.
Yeah, 4% rule. Okay.
The guideline here is that once you've hit your FIRE number, you can plan to withdraw about 3% to 4% of your portfolio's value in the first year of retirement, and then adjust that amount for inflation each subsequent year.
And that's considered safe?
Well, safe is a strong word, but it's based on historical data. Studies looking back over decades of market performance suggest that a 4% initial withdrawal rate has a very high probability of allowing your portfolio to last for 30 years or more, potentially indefinitely, even accounting for market downturns and inflation.
So it's designed to be sustainable long term.
That's the goal. Of course, it's a guideline. You need to adjust based on your specific situation, how long you expect retirement to be, your risk tolerance, expected investment returns. It's not completely set and forget, but it provides a solid framework.
So, pulling it all together, achieving this kind of financial independence, it really seems to boil down to two main things. That intense saving habit, getting 50–70% tucked away, and then building up investments until you hit that FIRE number calculated by the rule of 25.
That's the core mechanical path, yes.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally about changing your relationship with earning and spending.
It definitely redefines the whole work-life equation.
It really does. And maybe this raises a bigger question for you, the listener, to think about. Is hitting that number the only goal? Or does pursuing financial independence maybe push you to think more deeply about your values, what purpose looks like for you, and what really makes a fulfilling life, whether you're working in a traditional job or not?
Something to mull over?